Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the JPonComms YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to be taking a brief look over every single trialist who has featured in a game for Maidstone in this 2023-24 pre-season campaign. Now, of course, it seems like quite a while ago that Maidstone first beat Sheppey at the start of pre-season. Since then, we've seen quite a number of trialists feature. From what I can gather, it's about 12. And we've seen a couple on the bench who are yet to feature and may not at all, of course. We did see a goalkeeper trialist in the reserves or on the bench against Folkestone Invicta just a couple days ago from when you'll be seeing this video. But I figured it's probably best to put this video together now. I've been quite a staunch defender of not releasing who the trialists are until the latter stages of pre-season. Once you know whether or not you're going to be bringing these players in, obviously you want to give the club that sort of opportunity to try and make their decisions final. And it seems like a lot of the players who have featured as trialists so far in this season haven't actually made the cut. So I assume there's no harm in naming them and putting the work in to try and find out who they are. Now, this video has taken a lot of putting together. It's required me to dive into very niche fan groups. One player featuring in the training photos in a Morecambe kit. Couldn't find him for the life of me. Had to reach out to a Morecambe fan on Twitter. Had friends as well who I've made through YouTube and things like that help me in trying to locate some of these players too. So we're going to start off with those who may be more familiar to yourselves, and the first of which is going to be McKenzie-Lyle. Now, McKenzie-Lyle, of course, is someone who has been name dropped by George Elokobi already. Clearly not too against naming the trialists at this stage, and someone who has featured quite heavily throughout Maidstone's pre-season. McKenzie-Lyle did feature a number of times for Welling last season, mainly as a number 2 backup choice, but in pre-season for Maidstone, he's shown quite a lot of ability. He has pulled out some fantastic saves, was really good in the game against Bromley on the road, but has also caused some concern for fans in terms of his ability commanding the box and getting rid of the ball in kind of high traffic situations. So we haven't actually seen McKenzie-Lyle for the last game or two, which maybe does beg the question as to whether we're going to see him again. The next player which we're going to be looking at is another goalkeeper, someone who you may recognise as a former Stone, and that is going to be Josh Strizovic. Now, not 100% sure on this one, but if you look at the photo comparison on the screen now, then you'll be able to try and make that decision for yourself. Josh Strizovic was, of course, a Maidstone player a number of years ago. Did end up losing out on him going to Dagenham, where he currently plays at the moment. As you can see by the photo on screen from his Instagram, it does seem that he's ready to go ahead with the new season for Dagenham, despite having featured for Maidstone on trial after this announcement. So it does beg the question, maybe we're looking at him on loan, maybe we're looking at getting him in on a permanent deal. I'm not really too sure, but again, we only saw him for that one appearance and we're yet to see him again. So it's going to be interesting to see how this goalkeeper situation kind of unfolds. Doesn't seem like McKenzie-Lyle or Josh Strizovic are going to be two options that Maidstone are going to go with. Now, couple more players who some people may recognise if you're fans of the National League South, and the first of which is going to be Liam Soul. Now, Liam Soul, as you can see on screen now, was released at the end of the season by St Albans. Did not feature in a great number of games. Of course, you will, if you have been watching the pre-season friendlies this pre-season, know that he is a winger. He's quite quick, quite tricky, someone who looks to break forward with some technical ability, which Maidstone have lacked, of course, at times in previous seasons, but he does seem like a bright prospect and maybe someone that could be worth bringing in. He's still trialling with the club at this stage, although he didn't feature too heavily in the 2 appearances he's made so far. So for me, that's another player which, of course, we're going to have to take a look at. We'll see how that one goes. Another player, of course, who I think a lot of people are going to be more familiar with is Ogo Obi. Now, he is the player who's scored a couple of goals for Maidstone, 2 goals, 2 appearances against Folkestone and Bromley. Seems like a really, really bright player. Scored quite a few goals last season. I think it was 10 in the National League South across a number of games, but he did feature for Hemel Hempstead and for Slough Town in the National League South last season. So 2 teams who weren't really, doing too much last season. He still got a few goals between the clubs. He does seem to be a bit of a purple patch player. Did get 4 goals in 4 games for Hemel. Did get 4 goals in 4 games at one point for Slough as well. So, like I say, a bit of a purple patch player. Maybe he's hit a bit of a purple patch in pre-season for Maidstone. 2 goals, 2 games. You never know. It might be worth taking that risk if we can get a high level of consistency from him. Now, he is, of course, playing in that striker position. Can play on the left a little bit. Can play on the right a little bit. So it does offer a bit of depth up front if you were to bring him in. Now, the next player, we're going to be going back towards the start of pre-season now. Harry Phillips is going to be the next player. Someone who, of course, as you'll be able to tell by, I think, some of the training photos, does have a previous experience at Southend, was there for quite a long time, but didn't get too much of a chance there. Ended up not really playing too much football for about a year or so, and moving on to Malden and Tiptree, where he's tried to revive his career, and obviously by trying at Maidstone, trying to make that step back up in towards the higher divisions in the English Football League pyramid. Now, Harry Phillips is someone who, in pre-season, for me at least, is very comfortable on the ball. Looked like what I thought Henry Woods would be like last season, someone who's very good at ticking the ball over, seems very composed, seems quite intelligent in his thinking when it comes to his positioning and his awareness of those around him, and could be a decent addition to the squad. But again, we haven't really seen him for the last couple of games, which does beg the question, is he still in the picture? We do need more central midfielders, I think, at least. And I wouldn't be against bringing someone like Harry Phillips in. Now, next player we're going to be taking a look at is going to be Simon Offiah. Now, Offiah is someone who a lot of people at the start of pre-season was going, is that Josh Shonny Barre? He definitely fits that character profile. I mean, very short, very agile, very, very good on the attacking press, very, very nimble, very good with his feet, a technical player, someone who puts a hard graft in. Now, Simon Offiah is someone who in recent years has actually been playing some international football. I believe, from what I can find online at least, he was playing in the Slovenian second division last season and has played for a couple of other foreign clubs as well as a few youth sides in England too. So someone who's got a little bit of experience in different levels of football. Obviously, I have no idea of the ability of the Slovenian second division. I highly doubt many people watching this video will as well, but he looked pretty good a number of times in pre-season for Maidstone, again featuring on the left and on the right. So another player there who, is highlighting maybe an area of weakness that the management team has highlighted in the squad, maybe in those winger sort of forward positions. We've seen quite a few people trialling there. Liam Sol, a right winger primarily. Simon Offiah, a right winger primarily. And Ogo Obi, a striker who can play on the wings too. So, again, potential areas of weakness there. We're now going to start getting into the more kind of niche players. Destiny Oladipo, I mean, not too much of a niche player. If you were following Maidstone last pre-season, someone who did trial for us last year, didn't go to plan for him, unfortunately, and did not make it, or did not, meet the cut last time round. Trialled again for 1 game this season, this pre-season, and we have not seen him since. Unfortunately for him, it was a pretty poor performance, and I think his time was up almost as soon as it started, and it was not his destiny to play for Maidstone. Now, we're going to get into the very niche players here. First of all, we're going to be taking a look at Aaron Canali. Now, Aaron Canali is someone who, again, in the training photos, did have that Southend kit on. It took a lot of finding to try and locate this chap. Let me tell you, Nigel from the channel actually did manage to find him. Thought he looked quite Turkish and decided to search Turkish Southend player. Well, there was only one guy that came up, and that was Aaron Canali. Failed to impress really for Maidstone on trial in this pre-season. He has actually ended up signing for Hendon in the last week, so probably a decent decision to move him on and no longer continue his trial period at the club. Signing for Hendon, of course, no disrespect to Hendon, but Maidstone United, we're trying to look to try and win the league. Don't really want to be signing players that Hendon are acquiring, in all fairness. But again, another winger, play on the left, play on the right in pre-season. So again, an area we're certainly looking at as a club at the moment to try and strengthen. And the next player we're going to be taking a look at is Antonis Vasilou. Now, Antonis Vasilou is someone who is of Cypriot descent. He has most recently played for Wingate FC on loan, I believe, from Barnet. Of course, everyone will be familiar with Barnet from last season, a good National League side. And he has spent a couple of years at Barnet as well, mainly featuring on loans with a lot smaller clubs, and has featured for Cypriot sides many, many years ago. So he's another young player, another player who features on that right wing. Clearly an area we are looking at strengthening, and I was really, really impressed by him on his debut and his trial for Maidstone this pre-season. He did feature in that Chatham Town home game. I do believe he came off with a pretty severe injury, which of course has put a halt to his time at the club for now. We never know. This could be something we pursue once he becomes fit again. But obviously you don't want to be taking that risk on a serious injury at the start of the season. You want to see how that progresses. You want to see if he's going to be able to come back from something like that. So especially if he's on trial, you don't want to be offering deals to players who we know aren't going to be available for a significant period of time. So the next is going to be someone who took a hell of a lot of finding. This was the one I mentioned near the start of the video where I had to reach out to a Morecambe fan account on Twitter with a photo that I found from training of him in a Morecambe kit. It turns out it was a Morecambe Academy training kit, and the player is Ayo Shogbeni. Now, for me at least, he was the number 3, I believe, in many of the early pre-season games, featuring a centre-back, a very large lad, similar in size and stature to Reece Greenwich. But unfortunately, we've not seen him too much as well in the last couple of weeks. I think he did play against Bromley in a very short substitute appearance. But besides that, he's kind of been in and out of the team in pre-season. Very strange one, this. Very young player, but as you can see here on the screen now, did on Twitter announce he was leaving football at the end of last campaign. So maybe I'm wrong with this one. Maybe it's not Ayo Shogbeni, but certainly fits that profile. Morecambe, very large stature, very young player as well. And he plays in the same position, has the same number as well on his academy kit that he's been trialling in, and what he played in the academy potentially for Morecambe back in the day. So very strange one, that one. Someone we may see sign, of course. We are lacking a little bit in those defensive positions in terms of kind of reinforcements, really. We've got, I think, our starting pairing, Reece Greenwich and George Fowler, but not really too much there in backup. So potentially a good young player to bring in. The next player we're going to be taking a look at, going through my list here, is Sam Itoma, I think it's pronounced Itoma. I'm not entirely sure, but I put it on screen anyway. Someone who did start off at K Sports a few years ago, has moved around a little bit in the non-league circuit, has most recently been playing for Hive, was trialling for them a couple of weeks ago as well, I believe, or playing at least in one of their pre-season friendlies after featuring for them for the majority of last season. Played at right back, played at left back. I thought looked pretty decent, really, in the early stages of pre-season. Someone who I thought isn't a guaranteed starter, but is definitely going to provide a little bit of competition to Gavin Hoyt and maybe Rafe Brown or Chiaz Anolim. And I thought he could have been a pretty decent addition. Has apparently, from what I can find online, played in central midfield a few times in the past as well. So again, another young player who kind of fits that profile of covering a few different roles. And yeah, you know, another player who we haven't really seen feature too much in recent weeks, but you never know. Could be someone we end up bringing in towards the end of pre-season. Now, that wraps up all but, I believe, one player. Now, the last player we're going to be taking a look at is a very, very niche player indeed, and this took some finding. This was through someone I managed to find on Twitter, who apparently has a very good knowledge of football, but he pointed me in the direction of this chap, Connor Kelly, a very young player, fits the bill, fits the profile, a very technical young midfielder. Again, a position we do need to strengthen in, and he's looked really bright. Obviously got that assist against Folkestone in the week. I think he's really bright, good on the ball, incredibly hard worker. I noticed a couple of times he did lose possession in the midfield for Maidstone against Folkestone, but you could bet your life he was running back as fast and as hard as he could to try and win that ball back. And that is something that we need at the club. We need those workhorses in the side. need those fit players. We need people who also are not only workhorses but come with a great deal of technical ability as well. And from highlights I've looked at online of this player who, again, I'm not entirely sure if it is him, but I'm pretty sure it is. Someone as well on the supporters group said they heard his name was Connor being shouted to from the sidelines. So it does seem like that's our guy. I'd be very happy to bring him in after just a couple of appearances against Bromley and against Folkestone. I thought he's really good passing range, good technical ability on the ball, and good back and forth effort, quite box to box in what I've seen from him so far. So very happy with that at the moment. And that is going to wrap up all of Maidstone's pre-season trialists so far, who have featured at least. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Hopefully that's opened your eyes a little bit into some of the players that we've been looking at in pre-season. Obviously, as I've said throughout pre-season, trialists aren't going to be the only players we're talking to or looking at. There are going to be those players behind the scenes like Ryan Sanford, as George Edakovi's alluded to, that we're going to be talking to but don't see in this pre-season for Maidstone. So hopefully you will appreciate the really hard work that's gone into this video. I can't take credit for all of it. Been really helped out by the boys on the channel, Nigel, Sean, Connor, and as well as I've mentioned, a few contacts that I found through doing YouTube and Twitter as well. So massive appreciation to those folk who've helped out. You know who you are, so again, my gratitude goes out to you, and that's made this video possible. But like I say, hopefully it's a bit of an eye-opener for all of you Maidstone fans, and we're going to see a couple more trialists featuring in the last game against Lewes as well. So hopefully you do enjoy the video, do subscribe to the channel, do leave a like down below, and I'll catch you all in the next one.